Hey, so as I mentioned on the Moon Eyes video, I would be hitting up Nismo Festival, and here I am at Fuji Speedway today. And I thought I should start in front of probably my favorite JGTC car of all time, the Penzo R34 GTR that was driven by Eric Komas and Satoshi Motoyama back in 1999, champion car. This, of course, followed on from the R33 Penzo, which won in 1998. So it was, a very successful time in the history of the RB26. Amazing as this is, I'm going to start heading out into the pits. I'm going to try to hit every single pit on the way up so you guys can see what Nismo Festival is all about, what cars Nissan and Nismo bring out to this event. And then after we're done with that, I plan to go back here on the paddock and check out all the tuners. It's going to be pretty repetitive if you checked out my Rs meeting coverage, because there's a lot of tuners that were displaying cars at that event too. But as you can see, Nismo Festival adds a lot more onto it. So it's going to be a fun day of enjoying Nissan heritage, history, motorsports, and tuning. So we will start up with this car here. This is the RZ34 Super GT GT500 race car in its bare form. No livery on it, just bare carbon fiber. You can see the actual width of the fibers used on the external body. Massive wing here with gooseneck wing stays, swan neck stays. And what an aggressive thing this is. Just can't believe the size of these wings. You'll have to apologize for the noise. There's a bit of racing happening back here on the main straight. These are the Datsun Sunnies and Hakosuka GTRs that are out for their starter race today. So it's gonna get pretty noisy, but I'll try and shout as much as I can. Let's keep moving. Okay, this is ridiculous. The TR30 Atomica Skyline is getting warmed up. Okay, so as that DR continues to warm up, my ears are just bleeding from it. I thought I'd step into this pit area here, which is reserved for all of Nissan's electric cars, starting off with the Formula E race car. It's pretty cool because they've opened the back here so you can kind of see how it's all laid out. very, very minimal. Getting charged right now. And if you look deep inside here, there's some McLaren componentry. Next to it here, the Nismo Leaf RC 2.0. I actually got to drive this car and the one next to it. Unfortunately, they actually limited power that time. They allowed press to drive, but it was so much fun. It's like driving a big remote control car with infinite amount of grip. Over to the production side of things, the Nissan Ariya, the little K Sakura EV car, of course the Leaf. And over here, it looks like they pulled out the JRN V8 powered FIA GT1 R35 GTR from the Vantek collection. This car was competing in Europe, part of the JRM race team. Back in, oh god, must be 10 years ago now. Legendary Z33 GT500 race car. That, of course, replaced the R34 in the early 2000s. One of the most aggressive designs ever for the 33. Over here we move into slightly more modern race cars. These are the RZ34s. Take a look at the AP Racing brake setup at the front. As you can see, they have a carbon fiber cover, helping that air kind of follow channels that it's supposed to be following. Okay, so we have another Moto RZ34 here. This one has Otec sponsoring as well, the number 23 car. You can see how the air management is really on point on these cars. The Calsonic car. Really nice NK wheels. I love the mirror design and how the exhaust literally comes out the door. Okay, over here we kind of take one step down in classes. These are the GT4 versions of the RZ34. So you'll find these cars racing and competing in Super Taikyu. So it's the ready to race package from Nismo. Complete race car, can't really see much. Full race roll cage. And next to it, the previous generation Z34. A whole lineup of them. All right, so from the Super Taikyu cars, move over to a bit of this is how loud it gets when these cars are out on track. Okay, I actually forgot to shoot these ex-Navi Super GT cars that were next to the Penzo one. So we have the Z33 here, and of course the R34, which was sponsored by the same X-Navi coloring with the Nismo red. I think this still wins though. It's such a legendary color scheme. Right, I came back here because the cars are finally done with their racing. I can actually get back to kind of talking through the various cars we were looking at. So I'll head back to the Super GT area and start looking at the rest of the cars there. Passing through here, and I spotted the S30 and the Pulsar GTIR rally car. The legends really continue, and I have to say they really pulled out some of the nicest cars from the Heritage Collection. You have the Prince R380, the Prince Skyline, the Ken Mary race car that never actually got to race because of the oil crisis. We got the Hakoska race car, one of many. The DR30 we were looking at getting warmed up, and now they're warming up the GTR R33 LM. As you can see, rear-wheel drive only. This was the race car that participated in Le Mans, the only GTR to ever participate in Le Mans up until the R35. That's what I gotta do, change plugs on mine too. And over here, the remaining two, the legendary Calsonic R32 and the Hasemi Motorsport R31 Reebok car that participated in racing in the UK. And you can tell with the Union Jack there. I think these two cars are probably next in line to get warmed up. Look at the stance on this. 18-inch wheel, mega fat rubber. So next to this lineup of Super Taikyu cars, we have a nice selection of cars that they pulled out of the Heritage Collection. Starting off with the Otec R33 4-door, built for the 40th anniversary of Nissan. Next to it, pristine R32. And then this, the R31 GTS-R. It was kind of like a stopgap between the first generation of Skyline GTRs and then the second generation that began with the 32. But they weren't quite at a level where they felt comfortable calling it a GTR. Hence why they went for the GTS-R moniker, Nissan Motorsport International. So one of the very first Nismo cars that were created when Nismo was first established in the early 80s. And next to it, we go one generation back with a 4-door DR30 Skyline RS. These are always legendary for having the RS Turbo riding on the side. And then we move on to the older stuff and look at this there in the middle, a red Ken Mary Skyline GTR. These things are beyond valuable. They didn't make many of these cars. Just over 100. So this is like the prized possession when it comes to first generation old school GTRs, and this Hakoska 4-door ending up with the Prince Skyline. Okay, so I'm pretty much at the top of the pits, and it's actually not over yet. There's a smaller pit area here where the Datsun Sunnies and the race Hakoskas are kept. The more privateer teams is where you'll find the Tomei B110 Sunny and a bunch of S30s as well. So we'll go and take a quick look at these cars now. And you gotta appreciate just how simple these race cars were. Just a reworked L24 on Webers. I do wonder what they were running, bottom end wise. Got copious amount of cooling up front. This one is actually a 432, so it runs the S20 engine out of the Skyline GTR, and this one in particular runs Kaihin CR carburetors. That's a slide type guillotine-like carb. And over here, if you can get through, you can take a look at the exhaust side. For some reason they've pulled the coils, I think, to cool them off. And over here, another more simple L24. The Sunnies are getting a ton of attention. Of course, the 4 cylinders in these looks like a cut down version of the L series, which in essence it was. And just look at this lineup. And it's great because, as you probably heard, they make a racket out there because they're really racing hard. It's not like a parade lap or anything. These guys go full out with these cars. Here's the Daishin one. And the lineup continues. And the Sunny collection is a vast one. So these cars are just finished racing. And I just wanted to take a look at them while they've been pulled out into the paddock before they're put back to rest in the pits. Beautiful selection of racing Kyusha. Look at the wheels. Little race tires. Yokohamas. This is one of the Tomei cars. You can see the head with the Tomei. Let's take a look at the back of it. I'm sure most people will recognize this logo as well. Yep, Rocket Bunny wasn't the first to use it. I guess we'll start with the booths they have out here. Then we meet Valeside again, who have brought out their wide body new Gen Z and their Fast and Furious Z33. Of course, as I showed you guys on the episode we did at Valeside, they're actually working on some Kyusha goodness for Tokyo Auto Salon. We actually might drop by this month, probably towards the end, maybe after Christmas, to kind of see how they're doing with the preparation on that car and see if we can kind of get a little glimpse for you before the show. So this massive tent here is actually the Nismo Mori factory display, and when you go inside you will find the GTR Dreams, the CRS Clubman race spec GTRs in all the generations are 32, 33, 34, and then of course the 35 that they're still developing. Right here in the middle, the top of the line R4 engine. This is the highest spec that they currently offer. You can see the turbos that they've created for this package, including the carbon fiber inlet piping. So I actually shot this car, I think it was in 2012 when it was first built. I mean, it's obviously evolved since then, but it's always nice to see it. And you know, this is what people pay tons of money and get in line for. I think it's like 4 to 5 years waiting list on these. And then we have the R35, which we saw at ours meeting. It's got that new gen hood that they've developed, and it's actually based on a model year 13, which is probably like one of my favorite generations of the 35. Nismo fender, carbon fiber wing edition, and that rear treatment there on the side. So I'm not really sure what these CRS cars are coming to these days when it comes to pricing, as they seem to bump up prices every year as they kind of add more parts and more offerings when it comes to like engine packages and so on. But enough of Nismo, let's start taking a look at the tuner booth, starting off with a modified new Gen Z from Daytona Racing. Lots of carbon fiber dress-up bits here, and the USDM Nismo box, which for some reason is yet to be released here in Japan. Nice to see Garage Ito bringing out their demo car. I shot this thing over a decade ago for, actually before Speed Hunters, probably like for a bunch of US magazines or UK magazines. Crazy time attack thing that has obviously evolved over the years. It's got a swan neck GT wing setup, and it's used, you know, to this day at tracks like Central or Okayama, and of course Global Auto as ever. Probably craziest pairing of them all, 400R and the Nismo Z-Tune with the Z2 engine package, 2.8 based, 500 plus horsepower. Yeah, this is the dream. But as I told you guys, one thing I'm really interested in here at Global Auto is the front splitter that they offer, that comes into multiple configurations, so you can do very long or kind of medium or something in the middle. An alternative to buying the original OEM plastic one that splits all the time. Top Secret have just completed their 2023 Nismo GTR conversion, so it runs their brand new Aussie Racing 5-spoke Top Secret wheels and a host of carbon additions, dress-up goodies, just to pump the look of an already amazing R35. And they actually ended up having two. This Nismo actually runs a type of swan neck based carbon wing. Top Secret is really splashing out when it comes to R35 tuning, using these very expensive new gen Nismo models with the daytime running lights down there. Next door is Trust. We saw these guys at ours meeting too. Their R34 development car, looking amazing as ever. They also have an R35 Nismo, and these guys are just splashing out when it comes to buying demo cars. This car costs like close to 30 million yen. Impul's always concentrated on, you know, modifying pretty much every car in the Nissan lineup, and they've also got their RZ34 demo car wearing front lip spoiler, some wheels and brake package, carbon mirrors, and a wing setup here. Next door we have Blitz that have brought out Nobuken's old D1 car, or at least a possible replica of it. Hard to tell. And another big thing here at Nismo is of course getting deals. Most shops will have, you know, merch on discounts, special discounts for Nismo Festival, and people really come here to get the bargains. So Option magazine and G-Works magazine always have a nice little gathering of cars here. You know, cars that have been built in the last few months and featured in the magazines, or legendary things like under Suzuki's S15 time attack car, which is a work in progress still. We still haven't seen this car out in a long time. Since then it's changed a lot, especially the front end, and of course underneath it's now running a transaxle setup. Gigantic Andrew Brilliant AMB Aero wing here at the back, which is absolutely massive, and of course the tunnels under here. Kind of looks like a Formula car more than an S15. Next door we have the Team Orange Z34 based VR powered Fairlady Z that's used in Formula D. So it's actually been face swapped to an RZ34, but it's actually a Z34 base underneath, GTR engine. 1,000 horsepower, I believe. It's all the performance you would ever need in a drift car. And as we go into G-Works area, we have a ton of Fuchsias. Nice Star Road wide body S30 with their usual chromed up engine bay. This insane drag car that I see every year. I've been meaning to actually do a feature on this thing. I mean, take a look at this thing. From Rising. This is, for me, where JDM tuning really began back in the late 70s. And, you know, guys doing NA drag cars, cars like the S30. Absolutely amazing stuff. We have a wagon Hakoska, a Y33 VQ25DE engine. Take a look at the back of this thing. Doesn't get more rare than a wagon Hako. They actually might crank the engine on to change the steering angle. It's got a Motec dash. It's insane. V6, that's crazy. Beautifully stanced wide body R33 from Garage Active on OZ Futuras. Typical garage, typical SS Active engine bay. Very clean execution, massive single, fully built RB, and looks to kill. This is a pearl white, if you can actually spot it. And the Ishikawa body 180 SX continues to evolve. So both the front and rear fenders have actually been redone. The car redefines what fitment should be all about. Sitting on 19-inch Nismo Z34 wheels, and of course that custom engine bay here. Definitely a unique way to present an SR setup. Turbo is low mounted back there, custom manifolds. Okay, so over here we move on to more GTR goodness. Legendary shops like Mines and Midori. We got Tomei up there. Got the Midori R32 we saw at R's meeting. Again, really clean setup. And they have an R34 here. Can't remember if this was at R's meeting or not. But still, I'm a big fan of what Midori have always created. They've managed to stand out with their very own specific way of tuning. V-Spec 2 Nur here on BBS wheels. Completely stock. Isn't that something? You don't really see completely stock engine bays these days. We pass through here, we get look at the Cusco booth. We got a new Gen Z, and then onto MCR, which together with the with the R35 they had at Ars meeting, they brought out their R34 demo car, which is now owned by a customer. Again, another tuner that has done it so well. Okay, and right here we have the original Minds N1 based demo car that over the years has been, well, I mean, I guess for over a decade it was like stored away in one of Nikuro-san's personal garages, but they pulled it out, spruced it up a little bit, repainted it, changed the wheels, engine bay's on point as usual. What else have they done to this thing? Yeah, they've, I'm not sure if you can see, but they've actually redone the whole interior in Alcantara. So all the dashboard, the door trims, the center tunnel has all been done in Alcantara. I guess the same process that's done to the BBL cars. But yeah, it's always a treat to see this legendary car. I mean, this is the one that we all saw growing up, you know, up in hot version videos, best motoring videos. The response monster. Definitely have to do a whole episode on this car, I think. But here at Tomei, they're really going for it with the raffle and special edition parts and discounted goodies. They even have a bunch of secondhand stuff. So you can see how they're selling titanium front pipes for the RB26 or the Z3334 at special pricing, 122,000 compared to 152. A little bit of a discount, and again, pretty much all their parts get the same discounts here. So we got the pong clamps, the pulleys, cam belts. Shibata Sire is really splashing out with their booth here. So these guys have gone full out on creating their own product lines. So of course these are the R31 Skyline specialists, which have kind of branched out. They do their own brakes, they do collaboration seats with Brito, and of course they built an insane drift car based on an Infinity platform to kind of promote their Shibata tires. And what they have here for the first time is a road legal slick with the Shibata logo on the actual slick, kind of like a Hoosier. That makes it street legal apparently, and you'll be seeing a lot of these at Attack in February, the Time Attack event in Tsukuba, because they're actually sponsoring the event. So a lot of cars are going to be running those. Here's the Infinity Coupe with the GTR engine that they built for D1. Single turbo setup, the size of a house. Really short piping to the intercooler, and then two pipes back from the intercooler to the stock intake plenum. And you can see what the tires look like after a bit of heavy use. So it's actually pretty good wear pattern, no delamination, and obviously very proud of that because they're displaying it. And as we saw at ours meeting, they actually do stuff like complete wiring harnesses. This one is for an R32, 168,000, extremely affordable. Fan clutch for the RB26, only 37,000 yen. That beats Nissan. They have other stuff like the complete AC setup with condenser, compressor, and cooler. So really cool to see, you know, people branching out and doing what the industry is kind of like not supporting on the OEM side. These guys hit up the market, people notice their products, and you know, all of a sudden you have viable paths to take to, you know, complete and restore your car. Over here we move on to Robson Leather. They're displaying their complete Alcantara clad dashboard for the R34. I would love to get something like this done. Beautiful workmanship. You get the stitching that runs across the top of the dash all the way down to the center console. The race booth with their new Gen Z demo car. We'll check out some wheels they have on display here, starting with the CE28N Pluses. So these are the new generation version of the legendary CE28. They're no longer available in that matte finish. So they're painted, or they have the new, let's see if I can find it. It's kind of like this finish. It kind of resembles that original matte finish, but it's actually paint, kind of like a powder coat, I guess. So this is another cool, interesting display here at Nismo Festival this year. This is the S340Z. So it's basically the 34 that's been converted to look like an S30 Fairlady Z. This is done by the Nissan Automotive University, Nissan Jidosha Daigaku. And these guys, of course, because they're doing student projects, they go pretty crazy on what they create, and it even has an S30 rear end conversion. Really bizarre, but absolutely cool. Next to it, they have the Fairlady X. So they've taken a Murano and grafted on new Gen Z headlights and kind of recreated that front bumper, full on Recaro interior. And they've done the same with the back, grafted on the new Gen Z tail lights, and that created that same lip spoiler at the back. Next door, Kansai service. So these guys, again, we saw at Ars meeting. Always nice to see these guys at these events because they are some of the best tuners in Japan when it comes to refining R35s and of course RB powered cars. I just spotted the Fujitsubo exhaust booth. They have a new Gen Z with a mirror here so you can take a look at their new exhaust system. They even have a little barbecue set here. Stainless steel and titanium plates. Yeah, in case you're wondering, titanium plates, very light. Oh, I just spotted the BBS booth here. I'm always a massive fan of what these guys have always created, starting off with the BBS LM, the legendary one, the LMR, which I actually currently run on the Project BMW, the RIDs that I had before, and then old school RSs. These would look so good on like an Alphard van. Amazing stuff as usual, and they have new Gen Z to kind of show off their wheels. I forgot to take a look at this Z34 here. On air, obviously. Work VS's. Leighton House B310 Sunny. And right next to that red drag car we were looking at before is another S30 built for drag, 380 horsepower out of an NA. Absolutely crazy. Runs a full Motec system. I just love these vintage cars built for performance. So I just spotted this SS Active wide body 32, the full carbon bodied one we saw at Ars meeting. It's a pretty sick build. These cars are completely dry carbon. You can see where the joint line is with the rear fenders. Sitting on black T37s, and of course, if you recall, gigantic HKS Garrett turbo setup. Well, this is something different.